Kigali. The world is shifting fast. Elections are shaping destinies. Wars are redrawing borders. Economies are rising and falling. And global alliances are being tested like never before. But what does it all mean for you?
With a new administration and a new president in the White House trying to put an end to the war.
I didn't know the historical context, what the state of Israel means for them.
Join the fearless Ireti Bakare Yusuf on Borderlines every Friday at 4 p.m. on Nigeria Info 99.3. As she dissects the biggest global events and their impact on world peace.
Those who are not familiar with Israel or the war itself would not know much about the group. Breaking the silence.
No spin, no propaganda, just deep insights and fearless conversations on the geopolitics shaping our world.
People who will call and start telling you about the Bible prophecy about America and everything. See, America is not in the Bible. There's some people who, yes, they share the ideology of, yes, we and these people, we are equal, but they can't speak up.
Borderlines on Nigeria Info every Friday at 4 p.m. The world is changing. Don't just watch, understand it. Nigeria Info. Let's talk.
Good afternoon, Lagos, Nigeria, the diaspora, wherever you are listening to us from. My name is Ireti Bakare Yusuf. Welcome to Borderlines, the only show that definitely, most always, takes you beyond borders. So today, last week actually, the 39th ordinary session of the African Union Assembly took place in Addis Ababa. It was a summit that once again placed Africa's grand ambitions front and center. Deeper economic integrations accelerated implementation of the African Continental Free Trade Area, commonly called AfCFTA. Renewed momentum for free movement across borders and long-term aspirations such as single African currency. All of these were discussed. However, there's a lot to unpack. Indeed, there's a lot to discuss because, of course, this is Borderlines and we're staying in Africa. So my wonderful guest today is new on the show. Okay, let me tell you who he is first before I tell you his name. He's the director of the Center for Africa Policy Research and Advisory. He was on the ground in Addis Ababa. You may have seen him on Al Jazeera. We have the best guests on these shows, I keep telling you. He will help us interrogate the real prospects of a single African currency. Yes, you heard me right, a single African currency. He will also help us understand where the bottlenecks are, how trade integration is possible, and whether Africa's politics and politicians are able to live up to their rhetoric. His name is Dr. Segun Adebayo. Welcome. How are you, sir?
I'm very well, thank you. Good evening. It's great to hear it's good to be on the program. Great to hear your voice.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure and an honor to have you. So you will be able to call 0201 277 0993, 0201 465 7190, but you could be sending your WhatsApp message as my conversation continues with Dr. Segun on 0809 597 5805. Right now, like I said, we're staying in Africa. So, Dr. Segun, I don't even know where to start from. When it comes to Africa, there's so much to unpack. But here's where I'll start from. I'd like you to give us an overall, sort of short 1-minute synopsis of what you made of that AU summit in Addis last week. What did you go away with? Just really round it up for us, and then we'll go into the details.
Yeah, thank you. It was, of course, it's like homecoming for every major politician on the continent. You have the presidents, you have the diplomats, you have decision makers from all across Africa in one room. And then people who are rarely talked about You have the United Nations representatives, all their organs present. You have UNICEF, UNESCO, UNDP, everyone is there. You have representatives from the European Union. You have representatives from, as far as China,
Mm,
everyone is present. You have people from Japan. And before I go any further, I
mm,
think our our audience need to know that that very beautiful, majestic building of the African Union was a donation from China. And it's been said many times by even workers in the African Union there that that building is bugged. Well, that's another day's conversation. So you have everybody present in one place. Everyone is talking about Africa.
mm.
Everybody is ready to move Africa forward their own way. And we had the African Union is the 39th edition, but this time around it was shorter. You had less conversations like we used to have,
Mm.
but we had more of side events, and these side events were specific to different thematic area, facing Africa. And particularly, I attended two major side events. I attended the side event on education, and I attended the side event on health. The Nigerian government was hosting a certain side event to ramp up vaccination and immunization across the continent,
Mm.
to drive African member states to ramp up their funding and recruitment of health workers, to increase immunization and vaccination all across the continent. That's a very touchy topic for me. It's a topic I am very, very vested in,
Mm.
and I had to attend it. So yeah, that's basically the side events. And of course, you have the opening and the closing ceremony. You have the opening ceremony where we featured the Palestinian Prime Minister. He was there. He was there to say everything about Israel and of course President Trump. He was not, of course, it was a platform for him to express his his thoughts as
Mm.
regards the things happening over there. We had the Italian Prime Minister also. She was present and she had very strong words for Africa. She she insisted that Africa, or rather, she insisted that her country and the much of Europe is not looking forward to sending donations to Africa, but rather cooperating with Africa. And that aligns with the popular rhetoric of Africa needs trade, not aid. And she also talked about the fact that Africans should stay on the continent and develop their continent, because if every one of them comes to Europe, who's going to stay back and develop Africa? You could see that the prism by which Africa is being looked at is changing by the international community. Whether it's true or false, we're going to know in the coming weeks and months and in the coming year as we look forward to President Mahama, the president of Ghana,
Mm.
as we look forward to his actions at the next United Nations meeting, which was one of the biggest high points of this particular 39th General Assembly of the African Union. He had a major, he's first of all the champion for reparations for Africa. And he's been hot on it. He's very passionate about the reparations to Africa. He talked about the first of all, the acknowledgement of the colonial era of Africa has the biggest injustice to humanity, in the history of mankind. He
Mm.
said he's championing the fact that those who colonized Africans should acknowledge it, that they did wrong to Africa.
Mm.
They did wrong to Africa during the slave trade era, and they must restitute through reparations. You have a lot of African artifacts, a lot of things. You look at the museums in Europe, in UK, the museums in Europe, in Paris, in at the Vatican, you have a lot of African artifacts there that contribute to building the African identity in the hearts and in the minds of young Africans. And these things are locked up far away in the bosom of the colonial masters. You still have a lot of conversation around, land, the fact that, I mean, look at a country like Namibia. That's one country that's very dear to my heart because they have the first genocide of the 20th century. No one is talking about it.
Indeed.
There was a genocide in Namibia, and it was a taboo to talk about it up until 1990. And till date, over 50% to 70% of Namibian land is still occupied by the children of the colonizers, the children of those who committed that travesty on that country. Who's talking about it? So you're looking at the president of Ghana talking tough on reparations, on justice for Africans, and he's going to speak about it at the next UN assembly. And in the closing moments of the African Union, you could hear him. He hosted a press conference. I was there. I heard him personally talk about, what he wants, what he plans to do, and how other African member states should ramp up support for his move towards ensuring that this justice to Africans is actually actualized. Yeah. So in a nutshell, you had that, and on the sidelines, you had a lot of interviews, left, right, back, media houses from all across the world. And I would say very notably that we had very few media houses. In fact, I think less than 3 media houses from Nigeria present on ground at the African Union. And that's one thing that I think that the African Union must take very seriously, because you cannot be discussing about, the lives. You can't be enacting policies, following up on your policies on the lives of everyone in Africa, and then you have very few representation of media houses present at the African Union. It's something that we must pay very close attention to in the subsequent events that will be held at Addis Ababa. Thank you.
But let me just ask very quickly, 30 seconds. The lack of, sort of mass attention of African media houses, certainly Nigeria, is that a fault of the union or fault of the media houses themselves?
I would say that first it's a fault of the union, and of course I'll trickle it down to the media houses. But let me start by why I think it's a fault of the union. First of all, what's the level of preparation that is put into ensuring that the media houses are present? If it happened at the 35th African Union, did it happen at the 36th? Did it happen at the 37th? I attended the 38th, which was last year. And believe you me, it was this exact same story.
Right.
It was the same story. So when it happened on the 38th edition of the General Assembly, you have very few media houses present from Africa's biggest economy. What happened? Did the office responsible for that, was there a take-home assignment to ensure that it doesn't repeat in the next year? And of course, it happened again this year. Very notable absence of major media houses in Nigeria. So that's where the fault is. What did the African Union do to ensure that the media houses were present? Then secondly, the media houses themselves, were they even aware that, it is that important? We have a lot of national issues to deal with in Nigeria, fine. We have a lot of things going on here. We're already approaching our election season, but policies are the biggest conversations anywhere in the world. I mean, policies control the economy, controls everything. I mean, it's inexcusable that we didn't have the representation of media houses like it should. And also, our Ministry of Foreign Affairs, our Ministry of Communications, they should be held accountable. Did you think it was important enough to ensure that we did all we could to ensure that our media houses were present?
Thank you very, very much. Right, let's get into the meat of things. Would you believe time? We've already lost at least quarter of our time. So after ACFTA is often the one that's talked about over and over again. It's supposed to be the holy grail that's going to take Africa forward, that's going to bring us all together, and we're all, as a country, as a continent, we're going to make masses of money. But not a lot is happening on AfTA. Indeed, I'd like you to explore two things. There's the fact that I said not a lot is happening on AfTA. If that's right or wrong, please correct me. Number one. Number two is, what is the point of an AfTA where you still have a visa travel, or you don't have visa free, and you don't have interconnecting rail, right? I'm going to have to start giving you 1-2 minutes now, because time is good and I've got a whole lot of questions for you, Doctor.
All right, thank you. So the AFCFTA is supposed to be the glue that integrates the African economy together. But I think you've already answered your question, because how do you integrate an economy when to call your very next neighbor is more expensive than calling the UK? So our communications are already, it's difficult to communicate amongst ourselves in Africa. It's expensive. It's expensive to travel. You can't get a direct flight to many African countries. You will need connecting flights to other African countries.
Right. That was quick. Oh, you're still talking. I can't hear you.
Issues,
go ahead.
Logistics issues.
Mm-hmm.
These are the issues that are the AFCFTA. And of course, policies. There's very little, there are very little bilateral between countries in Africa.
I keep losing your voice. Yeah. Hello, doctor.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can now. Yeah, the voice keeps going.
Right,
perhaps you're getting a call. Yes, I thought so. Yes, go ahead.
Better now?
Yes. You were saying.
All right. So I'm saying that the interconnectivity of both communication and logistics is the biggest problem that's facing the AFCFTA. Look at, for instance, and also communication. And I would also put the media into this conversation. How connected are our media? Because I had an interview in Addis Ababa, and I said to the media house's president, I said, you guys in the media, you have a major responsibility to interconnect Africa and help us build the African identity. Okay, I want to do trade with Morocco, for instance. Now, what is in Morocco that could even be on the front burner for trade? Until I went to the Moroccan embassy last year, that I found out that Morocco actually manufactures cars. They manufacture cars in Morocco that are exported to Europe, and Morocco is like the highest. They manufacture the highest number of cars that are exported from Africa to other parts of the world. We don't even know about them here in Nigeria. Who's responsible for that? The media. So, because how would we know these things if the media is not bringing it to our fore? And of course, we need to begin looking at, before we start even talking about the transportation issues, the visa issues, the logistics issues, how much do we know about ourselves? How much do we know? Do we know the opportunities that abound in just Cameroon next door? I was asked a question recently about an investment done by former President Olusegun Obasanjo, where he was reported to have invested about $700 million with some others in farming in Cameroon. And I said, that's beautiful. In as much as it's unfortunate that we lost that opportunity for investment here in Nigeria because of the insecurity situation. But it being our next door neighbor, it's also in Africa, and it's part of course, benefit. We're going to reap the dividends through the AFCFTA.
Okay.
So, yeah, it's a big conversation, and I think that the media have a responsibility in ensuring that we know the opportunity around. Thank you.
We keep having these conversations. Here's the thing. Like I said, I'm going to have to start. They're already calling. Stop calling. He's still my guest. Then you can have him after I'm done. Here's the thing. We keep having these conversations and not a lot is happening, right? Who do we blame for that? Is that the lack of political will, should I say? Do we have a comatose African Union as we do in ECOWAS?
Yes, actually, the African Union needs to reinvent itself. if it's going to really represent the will of the people in Africa, it's very important that the African Union realize that beyond the structure, beyond the conversations, beyond the many bureaucratic committees and all of that, you are dealing with real people. You're dealing with real businesses. You're dealing with a real continent. You're dealing with diverse cultures. You're dealing with a lot of people, and you need to reinvent beyond the policy document of Agenda 2063, which is the biggest conversation in African Union. You wouldn't hear 1, 2, 3 before Agenda 2063 is brought up, and that seems to be the holy grail. That seems to be the Bible for everything they do at the African Union. But I said to them many times that, look, you are planning for 2063. Many of you who are having this conversation will not even be alive by 2063. And the people that you're even planning for, the young people in Africa, they are not a part of that conversation. How many of our young influencers attended the African Union? Do you see it on anybody's TikTok stream? Africa is the youngest continent. We should have a youth-dominated African Union. It's not about involving the various youth organs of the African Union. I'm talking about reinventing yourself to ensure that you have a total representation of the people that make up Africa at the African Union. So yes, the African Union is currently operating more like a talk shop, but we can't ignore that talk shop. We have to be a part of it. Even though we get bored and slip off in the auditoriums, but we have to be present. We have to listen to what they're saying so that we begin to know where we come in. So that, for instance, I mandated myself that the next African Union, I'm going to pack a huge delegation of young people to that place, and we're going to begin raising our hands, interrupting the sessions, and letting them know that, yes, we are here, and we need to change the narratives if we're going to have a better Africa. 2063 is too long to plan. We need an Africa Now blueprint. We need an Africa Now, not 2063. So yes, you're right about the fact that the African Union is currently benign to the real challenges and the real problems facing Africans.
Thank you so much. But here's the thing. The average age of an African president is what? 60, 65. Pretty much grandfathers, you know. Now, and we're talking about the youth. And like you rightly said, where is the youth of Africa at the African Union? So again, I go back, before I go to other things, and I promise you then I'll move on, is that, you know, you have all these African leaders who refuse to leave. Some are great-great-grandfathers to some of these young people that you speak about. Yet, the same people have been attending the AU summit in forever. In fact, you know, some of them have even been there before the first one was done. Yet, the same AU is really not pushing, not using its power to actually ensure or to push for youth leadership in Africa, as you rightly said. Because how can they be doing that if there's no young people present, if the place isn't full of young people in Addis? And indeed, if there are no young people addressing a room of, you know, geriatrics, sorry to say.
Yeah. So the question is,
go ahead, I'm listening.
Yeah, the question is, how did I get there? So that's the thing. How did I get there? How did I find out about the AU? There are opportunities. And you see, this is where, again, we the young people need to realize that we need policy education ourselves. Years ago, when I began getting involved in the things that I do, that led me to, you know, start up these organizations where I work now, the Center for African Policy Research, I thought about the problems facing Africa, Nigeria also. And I found out that one of our biggest problems is policy education. We are very benign to the most important conversations. And I realized that even our government, and that's why we are a Center for African Policy Research and Advisory, our government hardly pay attention to policy research. And that's the reason that leads me to Africa's biggest problems. Our biggest problems are actually the introduction of foreign policies into Africa. So you have multi-dimensional foreign policies operating in different parts of Africa that's affecting how we can integrate with ourselves. Now, these foreign policies may have worked in Brazil, may have worked in China, may have worked in the UK or the US, but Africa is a totally different land. Our heritage, our story, our origin is totally different. And interestingly, many of those policies are Trojan horses that at the beginning, they look good, but long term, they are actually detrimental to Africa's sustenance. I'll give a very good example. Look at the current hike in power. Suddenly, everybody is paying times three, times four of what they used to pay for power. Are we aware that the hike in power was actually preconditioned in an IMF World Bank loan? It was part of the conditions that would repay the loan through the hike in electricity bills. No one is aware. So you collect this loan from these post-colonial domination organizations, and then these loans are supposed to help build your economy. Then you take these monies, you inject it into the economy. But power, which is the life wire of an economy, is affected. So are you not just collecting money to destroy your economy under the pretense of collecting money to improve your economy?
Thank you.
So these are the questions. These are the issues. It's the same thing with the one topic that I've been very big on in this country, and that is GMOs. Somebody walks up to you and tells you that we are Africa by 2050 will be unable to feed herself. The first question you should ask such a person is, where did you get that information from? Who said that? You didn't ask that question because maybe the organization is a big name. It's the United Nations. They could never go wrong. Then you adopt that data that by 2050, Africa cannot feed herself. And then with that data, you begin taking policies. Now, what are the policies? You say, okay, the same guys that brought that postulation.
I need you to wrap up. Yeah.
They now tell you that you need to start using climate smart seeds that can, because of climate action. And then you take these seeds and you refuse to research to find out that those seeds will actually cross-pollinate with your natural variants and wipe them out. And because they are patented technology, you have to keep buying over and over and over again from the seed merchants who can wake up tomorrow and tell you that what is $2,000 is now $5,000 because of exchange rates. So these are the issues, foreign policy that gets into Africa and affects how we actually make local decisions that actually are beneficial to Africans. Eventually, you have a government or you have governments across Africa that have been actually slaves to foreign policy that then puppets of decisions that control everything in Africa. You are still colonized even though you think free.
Yet, I'll put this in. Somewhere in the equation, in all of this ambition, is another bigger ambition, the single currency, single African currency. Well, here's the thing. I don't remember who said it, but one of the biggest with EU was that the currency before solidifying the union, Africa want to do the same thing. Why are we doing a single currency when we haven't even, again, got the infrastructure that actually connects us without borders?
So the single currency conversation, I think it was about 10 years ago at the African. 10 years down the line, it's not even a conversation at the moment. No one's talking about it. It's just there. After the launch, it was there. And you see, it's wishful thinking. And you're very correct with your analysis. Nothing was done to erase the borders that were created by the colonial masters. Nothing has been done about that. You still have a highly fragmented continent, which is beneficial to the puppet masters who control the various blocks of Africa. So if you're going to have a single economy and a single currency and whatever it is you're trying to do with integrating the African economy, you must first of all remove the impediments, remove the inhibitions that are affecting the continent. That is the first thing. You must start with having a Pan-African identity that supersedes every tribal identity. many of the tribal issues you're having, the insecurity issues you're having between inter-tribes in South Sudan, tribes in Congo, tribes in Nigeria, and different parts of Africa, many of these problems are actually sourced from an identity problem. They see themselves more as the Fulani than as Nigerians or as Africans. They see themselves more as the Ijaws or the Ishakiris or the Danko tribes or the Danko, the Africans, or they see themselves more as their tribes than even they haven't even taken on their national identity, talk less of a Pan-African identity. So when there's already an identity crisis on the continent, how do you even morph from there to say you want to have a single economy or a single currency when identity is still a problem? Look at the volume of people that leave the continent on a daily basis. Lack of patriotism to the continent, to build the continent. And what is responsible for that, especially those who migrate through education? It is the curriculum. The curriculum was made to disintegrate Africa, to make Africa subservient to her slave masters. You have British international schools, you have Canadian schools, you have Chinese schools now. You have all these schools that are serving curriculums of these other parts of the world. And then when a child spends 6 years going through a British school, where is he headed to in the 7th year? Britain. A child spends 6 years in an American with an American curriculum. Then the next thing he tells his father, I need to write TOEFL and GMAT. Nobody's thinking of JAM. So who are we left with JAM? Those whose parents cannot afford to send them abroad to school. Then they go to Unilag or they go to Nigerian universities, spend 5-6 years, save up their monies, and then at the next opportunity, they're out of the country. These are symptoms of a loss of African identity.
Indeed.
Because if you have the African identity, if you have it, even when there is a problem, you will think of a solution.
Thank you. You mentioned that the President Giorgia Meloni of Italy was actually at the Union, and it's interesting what you said. She said, because I heard her speech, or at least part of it, and it's the same part that I heard that you mentioned. She talked about how, they want to partner with Africa, that, she spoke about how people shouldn't be, Africans should stop immigrating to the West. They have to stay behind at home. I find that quite interesting because here's a woman, here's a leader who is known to be right-wing. And indeed, what I'd like to know is the African leaders in that room, did they understand that she was actually saying to them pretty much what President Trump says, pretty much what Nigel Farage says, but they sent her to do it, if you like, in a nice and perhaps more feminine manner? Do you think they've got the message?
Well, I think that'll be a function of, how they understood what she said. Because, right after that conversation, right after that session, I had a conversation with a journalist who was quite upset with what she said. And I said, well, I don't think that what she said is something that should provoke anyone. Of course, there are problems on the continent. People will want to seek a better life. People will want to move out of the continent and all. But you see, it goes beyond her just saying everyone should stay on the continent and develop the continent. It goes beyond that.
Okay.
There is a systematic fault in the African mindset, the African education. There is a problem there. Let me give an example.
I need you to wrap up, because we literally have to take calls, Yeah,
you have Zambia with copper mines, but no single university offering a course on how to mine those coppers. Today, you have bankers that are makeup artists. You have people that studied engineering. They are event planners. How are they going to develop their countries? That means the mindset of many Africans now is screaming of just one thing: survival. So, at the point of survival, you won't be thinking of things like staying on the continent, especially when there are flashes of a better life outside the continent.
Indeed. Right. You can call. I'll be picking up your call. 0201-277-0993, 0201-465-7190. Send your messages or questions, comments to 0809-597-5805. When I pick up your call, make it short, sharp and succinct. Just one question, please. I'm coming to your calls now. Hello.
Yeah, good evening to you again. Maduka from First Start.
Go ahead, Maduka.
I want to disagree with your guest. The problem of Africa is not really education. Education can involve, it doesn't take much. The problem is leadership, vision, direction, then having a plan. Look, we are saying
so we know the problem. What is the solution? Let's talk the solution. You know the problem. He knows the problem.
What I'm saying, OAU is moribund. If this guy is interested, maybe drive an organization that will involve younger people or youth.
Okay.
OAU won't take Africa anywhere because the leaders of the different countries are not doing anything.
Thank you very much, Maduka.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, yeah, okay, hold on. Hello. Hello.
Yeah, I'm here.
No, sorry, no, I'm picking up the calls. Hello.
Hello.
Okay.
Good evening, Mr. Sogi. How are you?
I'm very well, Titilokwe. Very quickly, one question, please.
Number one, I agree with you, guys. The truth is that there is lack of self-awareness. The Pan-Africanism is not there. And that is why sometimes you see some parts of Africa, for instance, Morocco now, do things very differently from the way other African people do. But my question is this. If the colonization had not taken place and you have allowed the African people, the black people, to grow in their own indigenous way, I think we'll not be talking of a backward Africa.
Okay.
I think we lost our youth, and that is our problem. Thank you.
Thank you. There you go. Right. Well, it seems like so far the calls we've had, they're agreeing with you. Let me answer this. Hello. Hello. Right. You must be ready when you call. We don't have the time, and this is borderlines. There's a lot to talk about. Right, Doctor, let me come back to you. The Epstein files and what is called the Power Network. So you've linked the broader implications of the Epstein files to questions of elite networks and influence. What do you mean by that? And I need to give you 1 minute because I've still got questions and the lines are going. What do you mean? You have to shorten your response to me, please, I'm afraid.
Yes, it's very short this time. So every policy has an origin. Every policy is sourced from somewhere and has an agenda. And policy experts can present a diabolic policy to you and it's going to look very edible. And when you look at many of the policies that have come into Africa, they are sourced from visitors of the Epstein Island.
Right.
These are people that have indicated their position as regards humanity. And many of the things that we think are sin, they have positioned themselves in a certain way. And their policies which they have foisted on Africa have indicated that they were never interested in the development of Africa. And this is where many African leaders have been deceived.
Right. Okay. Thank you. Right. I'm coming to your calls now. Hello. Hello. Honestly, if you are not ready to talk, I will cut you off. We don't have the time. Right. Where is Nigeria's position in this whole continental integration? We're the largest, if you like, the most populous nation in Africa. But many people say Nigeria is lagging behind. And indeed, it is widely agreed that when Nigeria sneezes, the whole of Africa is getting a cold. That if Nigeria isn't walking tall, that the whole of Africa becomes midgets. Where are we in all of this? Again, I'm giving you a minute, Doc. Sorry.
I think that Nigeria needs to take her place as the giant of Africa. Many African countries are looking towards Nigeria for direction. But Nigeria currently does not have a stable policy direction. The Nigeria we have today is pivoting towards policies that need to actually be truncated and destroyed. We are actually cutting the wrong policy sources for our policies. And that's why the intentions of the government, you might have good intentions, but your actions eventually and your delivery eventually takes the nation in the other direction. And that's what we're experiencing in Nigeria. So other African countries are currently moving on without Nigeria. It's very evident. And if we continue this way, we would find out that we are actually behind in the matrix of things in Africa.
You talked about China. The AU building in Addis was a gift from China. Indeed, I've had a message here from, there's no name, Toyoye 7268, who said, funny that the almost completed massive ECOWAS HQ in Abuja was also a donation from China. Here's my thing. We're now in a multipolar world, right? We have a Donald Trump. We're in Donald Trump's world. We're in, in a world that none of us are familiar with. And indeed, it's very discombobulating to us. China on one side, America on the other side, both fighting for domination. You have Russia in between all of that. Everybody wants Africa's attention. Everybody still wants a slice of Africa. It's almost like we're back in the Berlin days era again. Where do we go from here? I mean, who is best for us? And should we just be saying to all of them, look, go away. We need to sort ourselves out and look inwards. Should we just, and this is radical, should we just close off our borders and focus on ourselves the way the Chinese did in order for us to grow out? I'm going to give you a minute. I know it's not nice of me, but I have to. There's a lot to talk about.
Deception is the key to diplomacy, especially when you're dealing with countries that are very particular about global dominance and global governance. And we've been in bed with China for quite a while now. And in fact, we've been in bed with all these countries, with all these world powers in different ways. In the area of grants and many foreign policy, we've been in bed with America, especially when you look at the Biden-Obama policies in health and food and many others. And in many grants, we were in bed with the past administration of the United States. Then when it comes to infrastructure development, we've been in bed with China, and also in the area of security, we've been in bed with some of these world powers. So Nigeria has not had, like I said earlier, we've not had a stable policy direction. But if you ask me right now, what we need is first of all a referendum to know what we require in Africa, in Nigeria at this time. And look at the current offering.
A referendum? How are we going to do that? We can't even get a national election right. You want to do a referendum?
But we need to, at the point, it's a very important step that we cannot ignore.
Okay.
We need to know what we want, and we need to know how we are going to get what we want. And of course, that is supposed to inform our foreign policy of how we interact with these global powers. How do we negotiate with them? Look at these parts of embarrassing actions that have happened in America. The $9 million bribe, the other one with our first lady. We don't even know. We can't get it right properly with the American government. But you see, my organization is making steps in those directions. And in the coming weeks and months, we'll be unveiling something very interesting that will help the country in the direction of our foreign policy, especially with the current situation in our insecurity or security, or with the knocking on our doors by the American government.
Thank you. I hope you're going to be working with the foreign ministry, our foreign ministry on that, or you're not?
I am in talks with them at the moment.
Excellent.
We had a very robust conversation at the African Union. I met many of their officials, and in the coming weeks and days, we'll be in touch with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Yeah.
Excellent. If it's foreign policy, we want to hear it on Borderline. So Benga, our producer, wonderful producer, will be in touch with you so you can come and tell us all about it when you've launched. Here's the thing. They're telling me I've only got a couple of minutes left. I'd like you to kind of, how should I say, shape the future for us, if possible. Give us a picture, not one that's honest as well as progressive, rather than one that's depressing. Because oftentimes you look at Africa and you're just thinking, where am I going to go from here? And like you rightly said, here are all my children, Africa is saying, but you old fogies won't let them in. Like, seriously, I need you to actually, before we close, create a framework of the Africa that we should be looking forward to. Perhaps one that's even going to fit into what you're going to be launching. I'll give you a minute.
Okay, so we should be looking forward to an Africa where her currency is dependent on her resources. Her currency is backed up by her resources. We should be looking at an Africa that is self-aware, self-reliant, self-dependent, and is not afraid to push back to the foreign powers that seek to control and dominate our resources. We are looking towards an Africa that is integrated, that is one. Our presidents, no matter who they are, and I heard somebody say in this call, somebody made a call and said our problem is our leadership. I choose to disagree because, yes, leadership may be a problem, but the leaders are from the people. There is no leader in Nigeria that came from another country. There's no leader from any other country that came from another country. You're having a people problem. We have an orientation problem. We need to integrate. We need to communicate more. We can learn from one another. So we're looking forward to an Africa that is one, that is united, that our currencies are backed up by our resources, and we are able to decipher the deception that come in as policies. We're able to say no to IMF. We're able to say no to the World Bank. We're able to say no to the Gates Foundation. We reject every Greek gift, every Trojan horse gift. We reject their education, and we have a labor-specific education for our people. We have education that is created, curriculums created based on our demands, things that would improve our economy and our society. Thank you.
And what message do you have for President Tinubu right now when we have 150 to 200 American military personnel on ground? Yeah, 30 seconds.
What message do I have to the president?
Yes.
It should have a very robust and innovative and a broad team of policy experts to begin conversations and negotiations with the American government. What he's currently doing, how he's currently going about what he's doing with the American government, it's obvious that there are more wrong steps than right steps. And there are many ways you can go about it because, of course, you cannot rule out the fact that these things are not coming free. They're not coming free. The interventions are not free. And we need to have the right set of people. We need to have the right innovative strategy to deal with the American government. They are not novices. They know what they are doing.
Thank you very much, Dr. Segun Adebayo. I really, really, really appreciate your time. Thank you for sharing your intelligence and knowledge with us.
Sports after this.
Thank you. Thank you for having me also.
Every meal I cook must taste just right. 99.3 Nigeria Info. We are more than just radio. Subscribe to our YouTube channel at Nigeria Info FM. Check us out on Facebook at Nigeria Info 99.3. Follow us on Twitter at Nigeria Info FM and on Instagram at Nigeria Info FM Lagos for live updates as it happens. 99.3 Nigeria Info. Let's talk.